Yo, Bachi 2007 back at you with another one. We're going to take a look at this article that has been going around the internet, mostly in the white men's spaces, or what I call the white sphere, but not so much in the Negro sphere, the black men's space, so strongly, even though I've seen it once or twice in the black men's space. But it's this article from the New York Times. Men, where have you gone? Back. They're literally begging now. We've seen this in some videos recently, a number of videos around the web, and now they're putting it in mainstream media in article titles, and it is the content of the article as well as we'll see that they are really begging men to come back. So we're going to look at Passport OG. This is one of the black content creators who the first one that I saw who actually brought it up. And we're going to take a listen to what he has to say on the topic to start us off.
New York Times article from June 2025 reads, Men, where have you gone? Please come back. So many men have retreated from intimacy, hiding behind firewalls, filters, and curated personas, dabbling in scrolling. We miss you. If you follow my channel for a while, you know May 17, a warm Saturday night in Wicker Park, a vibrant stretch of Chicago where 7 restaurants crowd a single block. Troy and I were having dinner at Mama Dahlia, one of the quieter spots. The sidewalk patio held 5 tables, 3 two-tops, including ours, and a pair pulled together for a group of 8 women. At those tables, Troy was the only man.
So he goes through all of that and it gets to this part where it talks about women walking in pairs, and there's a noticeable absence of men. And this article writer, who I believe is a 54-year-old female who's speaking, so we want to understand whose voice this is coming from, goes on to say this piece right here. There were only 2 tables nearby that held any actual dates. The rest were groups of women, women alone, each occupying their own space with quiet confidence, of course. Yeah, of course. They're quietly confident. That's why they're writing articles begging us to want to be around them. That night marked something, not a heartbreak, but an unveiling, a sense that what I had been experiencing wasn't just misalignment, it was something broader, cultural, a slow vanishing of presence. They are mourning your presence, men. On the other hand, I'm going to need you to not leave me mourning your engagement with this post. So go ahead real quick and like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, do all those things for me real quick, and we're going to get right back to the content. Appreciate it. You are doing a great job removing yourself from this degenerate dating scene and refusing to play modern women's game, refusing to be a part of their scene and give yourselves to these Hunger Games of humiliation rituals in which you're supposed to come before women, bow and kiss their ring, beg to be in their presence, and then pay to be in their presence and to entertain them, as if you're the jester in their royal court, as if they were queens, when they actually are out here whoring themselves out like alley cats, getting humped by everything that moves. They are at a loss, and more we're seeing they're having to come to the table to the realization and to the, she's calling it an unveiling. It's the realization that they have lost at this game that they have tried to play. All right, as we move forward, I'll address that. I'm not showing who this content creator is who got behind the New York Times firewall to get this content, because this is one of the white creators and he made some racial comments. So I'm not going to give him any publicity to send to him. But because he was able to get this behind the New York Times firewall, I do want to show from here. And this part of the content is New York Times content. I'm not showing him or playing any of his commentary. So the only content we're showing belongs to the New York Times and not him. So he doesn't need any credit. He doesn't have any right to any credit. And then I don't want to show all of the New York Times stuff since this is behind the paywall, but we are going to highlight a few things. So let's continue. They were so she talks about here um, these men who are going using online to connect with women. She's mostly talking about pornography, but so I didn't want to give her too much. light on that. But anyway, she says here, they weren't sitting across from someone on a Saturday night trying to connect. They were scrolling, dabbling, disappearing behind firewalls, filters, and curated personas. And while they disappeared, women continued to gather, tend to notice who wasn't arriving and to show up anyway. So of course, women again are always portrayed as the uh, wronged people while they're doing everything right. They're supposedly showing up, and there's no fault on the women's side. All of the fault is on the failing men. So she continues as she is supposedly trying to woo men back into the dating market. She is once again doing more of the same thing that sent men away in the first place. She's again placing all the blame on men while women are virtuous paragons who do no wrong and have no fault in this situation whatsoever. That not just the fact that they have the majority of the fault. No, 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 they don't even have any fault, according to her. So she continues here. I'm 54. I've been dating since the mid 80s. So the mid 80s, that was 40 years ago, lady. So you should talk about you've been dating since you were 14 and you're still out here on the dating market. This is pathetic. Oh my goodness. Been married, been a mother, got divorced, and had many relationships long and short. So this goes to the issue that comes out at the beginning of the article that we heard read by the other fellow on OG Passport, or better yet, Passport OG. So many men have retreated from intimacy, hiding behind firewalls, filters, and curated personas. I think we also just read that. So many men have retreated from intimacy, but she's been in many relationships, long and short, for 40 years. Let's understand what that means, particularly the short ones. They have been intimate with many, many men. See, intimacy requires exclusivity. These women do not offer exclusivity as they are ran through by numerous men and have the gall to sit up on these platforms and say with a straight face that getting smashed out and used like a old used rag is empowering. That being with many, many men in the bed between the sheets, getting their uterus knocked around, that is empowering. They actually say this with a straight face and expect any man to take them seriously and are surprised somehow that men don't want them when actual intimacy demands exclusivity. And the last thing these women have, especially old hags who've been dating, and by dating, that's in air quotes. Dating means getting their insides rearranged for 40 years, are surprised why men don't want them and why we don't want to come out to their spaces and show up, and that we're not arriving, because what we're not arriving to is we're not arriving to these spaces that have been so designed to suit women's desires and to play into the women's game of having men come forth to pay for them to have foodie dates with men who they have no interest in being with, they have no interest in giving back to men in any kind of way. She talks about reciprocity at one place in here. Here goes no reciprocity. Yes, no reciprocity from women. Men pay for spend 40, 80, $100 on 2, 3, 4, 5 dates. And a woman will say, I'm not going to cook for you. You don't get wife treatment until you make me your wife. Yet a man is expected to provide meals and entertainment and nights out and give of his resources as a husband does. That is husband activity in the traditional. And we're supposed to provide traditional husband resource giving to women, while women reciprocate nothing and declare that they owe men nothing. They don't even owe a man a smile, not even a smile. But we're supposed to show up at women's dating events and show up at restaurants and show up at bars and buy women $12 drinks and and spend $80 $100 a night on dinners for these women who don't even have any interest in you, but all they have and all they bring to the table is a bunch of entitlement that you owe them these things in exchange for a bunch of attitude, and maybe them talking to you for 10 minutes just to get the couple of drinks. And once you've bought them a drink and they demanded that you also buy their friend a drink, then after that, you can kick rocks, and she's been entertained and she's gotten a free night out on the town, and she's gotten what she wants out of it. Men get nothing, but then they congratulate themselves for tending to and noticing and arriving, but then blaming you for not showing up and claiming that's why the market is the way it is, rather than it being the reality of the rancidness of these females in general, of them giving away all of their virtue and all of what matters to men that would make a man interested in wanting to be with a woman and give his resources over to a woman, which is exclusivity to sexual access, and having a woman who will show him respect and will give him reciprocity as he provides her with his masculine energy and the benefits of what masculinity brings, providership and resources. He would get in return from her femininity and feminine energy and feminine service back to him, bringing him a plate, cooking him a meal, all of these sorts of things that these women refuse to provide any of. Again, they won't even provide the the feminine energy and that lightning bolt of feminine energy that men receive by giving men a smile, because they don't owe you nothing. They owe you nothing is their mantra. Why do men think that women owe men their bodies or owe men a smile? But women think men owe them everything. Ladies, we don't owe you to show up at your events and show up to provide resources for you and to give you our energy. We don't owe you our energy. We don't owe you anything. So I'm fast forwarding to one last set of comments to get to one particular comment in specific. Maybe we're between paradigms, mourning what's fallen, not yet fluent in what comes next. The infrastructures of intimacy, slowness, curiosity, accountability have been eroded by haste, convenience, and a kind of sanctioned emotional retreat. It's not about blaming men. It's about noticing the imbalance, about grieving what's not meeting us. What's not meeting who? Women. Because men are causing an imbalance, but we're not blaming men. The double talk, just listen to the double talk in the self same breath. It's just unbelievable, but they're not blaming men. It's just crazy. But to continue, and about refusing to dress it up as a personal failure when it's actually a collective reality. This is the second time we've read where she's made this point, where, of course, as is woman's want, she takes no accountability. Zero accountability for her actions, for her reality, for leaving her marriage, for dating for 40 years, but refusing to show up the way men need to serve a man in any kind of way. Because notice she's not talking anything in here about what women need to do different to bring to men in order for men to want to be intimate with women, to want to show up to be where women are, as opposed to retreating to get away from women in order to protect our peace. There is peace away from modern women. There is not peace with women, and as she says in this article, who say things like cis heterosexual men. She actually uses that phrase. I am not cis. That is a slur. I am a man, period. I am not a cis man. I am not a cis heterosexual man. I am a man. Heterosexual, but I am a man. I'm not cis. And we don't want to be around women who talk like this. We don't want to be around women who use that paradigm. that gender studies paradigm. Further, why we are retreating away from you, because you continue to try to push on men who are generally socially, morally conservative, not small c politics conservative, because even Democratic voting men, for the most part, are more mostly conservative in what we want from women, and also to include that sexual conservation, which you cannot offer. You've been in many short relationships over 40 years since the mid 80s, and we don't want it. And uh, again, you're not blaming men. That's a lie. The next breath, it's about noticing the imbalance. What imbalance? About grieving what's not meeting us. So you're blaming the imbalance on men that are not meeting women. We're not meeting women where they want us to meet them. No, we are not going to meet you at Boss Chick Land, where we need to worship you and be obsessed with you. Absolutely not. Where we need to bring tradition as men and pay for everything, but you offer no tradition as women. You, first of all, offer no sexual exclusivity tradition. You offer no commitment to your relationships, as most women cheat in most relationships, despite how they talk about men cheating, women cheat just as much or more. You have no commitment to even the sanctity of marriage. You all bail on all of those when you're, quote, not happy, as if marriage is about your happiness. Marriage is about commitment and honor and going before God, and keeping a covenant between your spouse and your covenant with God. Marriage is a religious institution. Why you all engage in marriage if you don't believe in its religious sanctity, then it is beyond me. But you have no commitment and you have no sanctity and honor that you stick to. You don't bring any uh, femininity, balance, and tradition to the situation. So why should men show up to balance out your boss chick masculinity with their masculinity? We can't balance masculinity with more masculinity. You are already masculine. Stay there, be the man that you want, and we'll stay away from you all. And what we'll do is we'll continue to go overseas. We'll continue to meet women from the first world, the third world, who are here in our first world countries, or we'll find the very few women who are left, who grow up in this society, but who are not giving over to the foolishness, who want to have relationships with men and who want to show up as feminine women and provide that femininity to men. What we won't do is listen to used boss chicks try to tell us how to be and how exhausting and despair you are. No, yeah, it's avoidance. We're avoiding you because we're tired of you and we don't want what you have to offer. You need to bring to the table what men are asking for instead of telling us you are the table. You aren't bringing anything to the table. That's why we aren't bringing our table out to your events anymore. And we'll keep it like that. And we'll all live our lives. You're watching 2007. Like, subscribe, notification bell. I'm out on this one. Peace.